Yo, what up, what up, what up? So, I'm literally fresh off of a coaching call. It's the latest crap. But I'm feeling good. And I wanted to share this distinction that came out of it because it's super dope and it's fresh in my mind. So, why not, right? Okay, let me set it up for you. And here's the picture. A lot of people, most people, more people than most, have a thing about approval, right? We want to be liked. We want to gain the favor of those around us. We want people to like us. We want them to see us in a good light. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? You would think so. Unfortunately, one of the things that we've done in doing that and seeking to be like and seeking to have people accept us, right? That's what it comes down to, seeking approval, seeking acceptance. What we've done, we've essentially given over our power to somebody else. Because whenever we're going to somebody else for their approval, what they're saying is, I have my own standard. You meet my standard. Congratulations. I have a particular way that I like things done, and you do them that way. You're in. We dress like this. We do this thing. If you do this thing with us, you're one of us, and you can be down. You're good. And so, essentially, other people who have set their own standard look at us, almost looking down on us, and say, you're good enough. You can be one of the cool kids. You're in. And a lot of us have tied so much of how we see ourselves to how others, based on their own standard, have seen us. And then we wonder why we feel the way we do when somebody looks at us sideways, or they don't allow us to sit at the table, or they don't invite us to the party, or they say, no, we can't be a part of the group. And this distinction of approval as opposed to affirmation that was discussed in my conversation tonight revolves around this fact that when somebody's approving of you, they're essentially standing over you saying, okay, you can come up here now. Whereas the affirmation that is received is coming from somebody who's on the same level as you, and there's basically reflecting back to you something that they've seen or know to be true of you based on their experience with you. So it's, take for example, the individual who has been having a bad week. Nothing's been going their way, and everything's just cloudy and rainy in their mind. And they're stuck in their thoughts. They can't seem to get out. And so they go to their friends and they're talking about all these issues. And their friends say, well, you know who you are. You know you're thinking these thoughts, and that's not the truth of who you are. This is what's true of you. I know you to be better than this. I know that when you show up and you bring a greater energy than that. Those individuals, whether they be it our friends, our colleagues, our family, those people around us who know us, can look at us and say, you don't feel this way, but this is what's actually inside of you that makes you great. And so that affirmation, that reaffirmation of the greatness that is inside of us is, it's not an approval. It's not like they're looking at us and saying, oh, you have this about you that I really like, and this is why you shouldn't feel bad. No, the affirmation is them seeing essentially into our soul and seeing us at our core and seeing us as who we are, flaws and all. Like, it doesn't matter the fact that we might be feeling down or the fact that we may not feel worthy, whatever that is. Know what people think they mean by it, but that's a different conversation for a different video. But this sense of having those around us who will affirm and reaffirm the truth of who it is that we are is what I believe we really are searching for. The seeking the approval comes from the fact that, our parents probably more than likely sought to control us and sought to fit us into this particular mode of behavior that yielded a particular result, which usually ended up in us being approved of or disapproved of. I get it, it runs deep. It probably goes back to being in school and not acting out and being approved of by the teacher, by the principal, by anybody else, right? Because our behavior, the way we showed up, our being was acceptable to them. We were able to get along because we fit into the mold. Even on our jobs, work responsibilities aside, I'm sure that every workplace has its own particular culture and its own way of operating. And when other individuals are outside of that culture and they move differently than everybody else, they're usually talked about, ostracized, maligned, marginalized, not allowed in, not invited. And so we're kind of steeped in this culture where everybody's seeking approval of somebody else. And there are individuals who will gladly seek to give you approval. They will gladly seek to set themselves up over you if you allow them to do so. I'm not the one, boo. I'll tell you straight up. I feel like I've come so far in this regard. Granted, there's still some working out that is being done. And at the end of the day, I recognize what it is now to have that affirmation from individuals who see me and know me as I am and not as they want me to be. One of the first conversations I had during my 60 for 60 project, this idea came up of loving something as it is. And I told this story about how one morning I woke up and I was going out to work and I saw this leaf on top of my neighbor's car, and I went out and got it. Went over into his yard at 7 a.m., took the leaf off, and walked back to my yard and got in my car to go to work. And I'm looking at this leaf and it's large and the colors were so vivid and bright. And I put it on the front of my dash and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna let other people experience this beautiful leaf as I go to work, right? End of the day, I get in my car and the leaf started to harden up and started to curl in on itself. And instantly I had the thought like, oh, it's not as beautiful anymore. And then I heard a voice like, is it really not as beautiful as it was? It's still the same leaf. And in that moment, I caught myself and it's like, this is what we do to each other. It's like, as long as somebody shows up and they're beautiful to us, they're acceptable to us, they smell nice, they dress a certain way, they're put together, their being happens to be acceptable on our palate. That's when we say, okay, yeah, I love you, you're great. But what about when they begin to turn in on themselves and they're not as crisp, or they're more crispy than when they once was? And I mean crispy, the classic urban context of the word. Not crunchy. Well, crunchy too. What if when they don't show up as put together? They don't smell as nice. Their being might be off in one way or another, which, as I'm thinking about it, can one's being be off? I feel like that's me making a judgment of how somebody else is showing up, because how they may be showing up just may be how they are, which would mean that their being is on point, which means that they're being true to themselves, brings me back to my point. In the moment I recognized that I was judging the leaf for changing, I saw that I can forgive myself for that judgment and love the leaf as it is. Similarly, when we can love people as they are, without wanting them to be different, without wanting to approve of them, but affirm them in the truth of who they are, that's where the real love is. That's where the real power is. To have the ability to speak into somebody's life and to see them and to get them to know, like, hey, again, you feel like this, but all your thoughts, all your feelings are super transient. I love the idea of looking at thoughts and feelings as clouds passing in the sky. A cloud may move in front of the sun, and it doesn't make the sun then non-existent. Excuse me. It doesn't make the sun non-existent. What it does, it may, obstruct the view that we have. It may get in the way, yes, and it's actually there, but it's going to pass. And when we get stuck in our feelings, when we get stuck in our head and in our thoughts, it's because we're latching on to every cloud that passes by. And when we're most worried about how we'll be perceived and how we're going to be received, we're stuck on a cloud, and not cloud 9. Probably cloud 13. That might be unlucky. So, are you seeking approval? Or are you seeking affirmation? One leads to you shaping yourself in such a way to be acceptable to others, looking to fit to their standard, looking to be in a way that they find appropriate and acceptable, looking to want to be a part of the cool kids. And the other way, you just kind of say, this is who I am, this is me, this is how I'm showing up. Whether you like it or not, that's okay. There are those who see me and know me and are there to remind me of who I am in the times that I forget. And even the times when I succeed, right? Because this is this is the other end of seeking approval. You can do something in order to gain somebody's approval and their affection, and they kind of stand over you and say, oh, I didn't want you to do that. Have you ever heard somebody say, or have you ever said to somebody along the lines of, I didn't ask you to do that. Like, you're over here all happy that you did X, Y, or Z, but nobody asked for that. How crushing is that? Just thinking of moments that I've been on both ends of that conversation. And looking back on it, it's like, yeah, that's super crushing. It's like, ooh, ow, seriously? We did that? Like, I thought we were cool. And so, yeah, you can do things that you think are good, and yet somebody else can look at it and say, yeah, that's not good. And instantly you feel, aw. And the effect of that then becomes, I'm not good now. Not every time, but most times. Like, something must be wrong with me. I thought I was doing something right. I thought I was doing something good. I thought I was doing what I was supposed to do. But I guess I was off. I guess I was wrong. How could I be so stupid? Seeking approval will run you into the mud. And it's tiring, and yeah, it takes a lot out of us. But when it's affirmation, I don't even want to say it's the affirmation that we're after, because doing anything for anything other than doing the thing, motivations might be just a tad off. Mayhaps. But yeah, just kind of being in such a way that you know that those around you will affirm the truth. And what is the truth of your being? I have this very wordy way of saying it, but I'm not going to change it right now. Maybe the day will come, but that day isn't today. So when people ask, or when I talk about what is the truth of our being, this is what I've come to understand, right? I've come to understand that we are individual expressions of a universal consciousness on a cosmic journey experiencing itself. Now, what all does that mean? I would love to explain it to you. And I'm about to go to